Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show, sponsored by HM Company at draintroughs.com. This episode today is just going to be me and Carla, no guests. I know we get a lot of messages from you guys that you love this sprinkling these episodes in. So here's another one to end. Carla, I think this is the last episode of season six.
Yeah, so, episode 120.
Episode 120. Wow. I just want to pause for a minute and just say thank you guys, because we wouldn't be doing this if you guys weren't watching and listening and getting value and giving us feedback. And from the first episode, we never dreamed in a million years that we'd have people actually sponsoring the podcast and purchasing ads and things like that. And that just inspires us even more to know that we're bringing value to our advertisers, to our guests, and audience that we're here to bring value to. So just wanted to stop for a minute and say thanks. Never dreamed we'd do 6 seasons and 120 episodes, but here we are going strong, and this won't be the end. So we're going to move on to season 7. If you are interested in becoming an advertiser, go over to our website. We have an advertising page there, and you can check that out and see our rates and get a copy of our media kit and things like that. So we'd love to talk to you about that. But on to the episode today. This episode, we think you're going to get a lot of value of. We just got back from the Excellence in Laundry conference, and just like every time we meet people in person, we get a ton of questions about a lot of different topics, but one that just continues to come up in our workshops and at different conferences we go to is employees. How to find them, how to retain them, how to compensate them, how to discipline them. Our employee handbook, which is available on our website, by the way. So you can go find that in our shop and download it and purchase it. And you can use that as a template in creating your own. It's about 20 pages long. Something that's been a work in progress. I think this is probably rendition number 7 or 8 or something like that. But anyway, that's what this episode is going to be about today. So we're going to dive into a few of the things, our employee handbook, and talk a little bit about our policies and procedures, talk about our bonus structures, our compensation, and how we've built the amazing team that we have. That's one of the things we always hear when people come to our workshop is they leave blown away about our processes and procedures, but they also leave blown away by our team. And that's not by accident. So I want to give them all the credit in the world. And we want to try to share that value with you today. Hopefully it'll help your business a little bit.
But before we get started with the episode, we do want to take a moment to spotlight the Curbside 2026 conference. If you haven't already registered, it is June 24th through 26th in Long Beach, California. And when registering, if you use the code Millionaire, you can get $100 off the registration fee as long as you do it before June 1st. So definitely check that out. Dave and I will actually be some of the featured speakers there. So you can hear a little more about our pricing theories and how to make sure that your pickup and delivery operations are profitable. Yeah. So come and see us at Curbside 2026.
And if you're one of those people who go to a conference and you only go to day 1 and then you check out on day 2, don't do that, because we're the featured speakers on day 2. I think it's right after lunch, if I remember right, Carla. So stick around, listen to us, give us a hug, take pictures, shake our hand. We want to meet you guys, and we hope you'll stick around because we got a 90-minute keynote that we think is going to bring people a lot of value. So we'd love to see you there.
Have an amazing team. Where do you find these people? I can't find anybody.
Customer service is everything. The second priority is cleaning the store.
An employee handbook isn't just holding them accountable, but it's honestly protecting them.
If you're going to try to hold them accountable, you can't give them 50% training.
So today's episode is all about staffing. If you're not a community member, we do have monthly community coaching calls. And one of the hot topics that comes up pretty much every month are staffing issues. Hiring, where do we find them? How do we make sure we get the right people? How do we compensate them? How do you know when it's time to fire them? We're constantly getting these questions, and we're often referring to our employee handbook, which we do sell in our online store. Dave has it held up there. But it's about 20 pages, and it goes into all of the policies and procedures that we enforce at our laundromats, Queen City Laundry. And I will say it's been a work in progress. We've definitely learned a lot along the way about what policies are absolute necessities, and also kind of how to word things to make it easy to hold our employees accountable and terminate them when needed. So today we're going to talk to you all about our employee staffing policies, about our hiring, about how we retain the great people that we do find, and then how we fire the ones that just aren't a good fit. So that's really going to be what today's episode is about. So one of the first questions we always get is, especially when people come to our workshop, they're like, you have an amazing team. Where do you find these people? I can't find anybody. Where do you find them? So one of our first answers is always, honestly, our own personal network. We find a lot of people through friends we know, or even some of our friends or relatives of theirs, or people that go to church with us. And then also the circles of our great employees. Another place we find a lot of people are honestly our customers. Attendants are great at getting a good vibe from the customers that would be hard workers. Are they cleaning up after themselves? Are they a hard worker? Are they sitting there just playing on their phone the whole time? Or are they busy at it? Are they friendly, good at customer service? So those can also be viable places to find great employees. But we are always on the search. Dave, where else can you think of that we've found some really great sources to find those rock star people?
Yeah, well, we've always used the foundation as our personal network. I mean, we always joke that, 25% of our employees go to church with us, which I don't know that that's a completely accurate, but we definitely have 5 or 6 of them that do and have over the years. And honestly, just our employees network in addition to ours, it's not necessarily every employee we have, hire an attendant week 2. We're not necessarily taking their referrals, but definitely our management team, our leadership team, our rock star processors and drivers, we're always getting their feedback and things like that too. That's a big one you talked about in the store. We didn't used to be very good at this, but when you get really good at honing in on who you're looking for and what you're looking for, you can relay that to your team and they can always be on the lookout. And we've trained our team, especially our management team, to do that. You got a rock star customer in the store, they will a lot of times even approach them and be like, hey, we're hiring right now. Have you ever thought, are you looking for a part-time job? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't go anywhere. But that 1 time out of 10 that it does, you'd be surprised. A lot of people love Queen City Laundry because of the culture and the team that we have. So those are all things you mentioned, Carla, but I think those are the lion's share. A couple other things I will mention is we do run paid ads on Facebook, Indeed. We have a local staffing agency that we work with that's a national franchise, Express Personnel, and they have franchise locations in just about every city in the country, and their franchise model is really solid. So they find us a lot of good people that way as well. One thing I will talk about real quickly is when we do run ads, I think there's kind of an art to creating an ad, and we didn't used to have these things, but we have very, very detailed job descriptions now. In fact, in many cases, they're 3 or 4 or 5 pages long. And that's by design. They're kind of overdone a little bit. And what we'll do is when we have a job opening, I'll take that job description, drop it into ChatGPT and ask it to make me a 1-page job description for optimized for Indeed. Right, for the specific platform or for Facebook or whatever. And then I'll just copy and paste that. I'll usually do a couple quick edits, drop that in there, and it's optimized for that platform. And it'll even give you some tips. Hey, think about this, don't make it too long. Make sure you do this on that platform and not this on the other. So that's powerful too, is not just running ads, but understanding how to design and create ads. And we're not experts, but it starts with a solid job description and great compensation. That's the start of it. And I know we're going to talk about compensation in a minute.
Yeah, and those job descriptions that Dave's mentioning, we do also offer those in our shop if you want to see what our job descriptions look like. But I think that's another important piece of the puzzle is making sure the people that you're hiring are the right fit. Make sure that they have the right qualifications. Like what we look for in an attendant is very different than what we look for in a processor, a laundry processor. What we look for in management might be different than what we look for in our driver or whatever. So depending on the job type, we're looking for a very different skill set.
If you're looking to scale your wash, dry, fold business, you need a point of sale provider that understands your operations. That's why we're fans of Wash, Dry, Fold POS.
Built by laundromat owners for laundromat owners. These guys work closely with their own attendants to ensure the software is easy to use and train on.
Their low monthly price includes pickup and delivery, text notifications, and many other features that normally cost extra on other platforms. It's all about value and affordability that scales with you, and we think Wash Dry Fold POS kind of nails that.
Check them out at washdryfoldpos.com. Simple to use, easy to grow. That's washdryfoldpos.com. Dave, can you talk about kind of the differences of what you look for in an attendant versus a laundry processor versus a driver?
Well, I think it's important to kind of define those things because we know what those are, but people at home don't. A store attendant is exactly what you would think it is. But for us, a store attendant, their focus is not cleaning. Certainly that's a part of their job, but we always say a store attendant, which is someone that is manning the store, right? Their number one priority is actually customer service, not cleaning. Their number two priority is cleaning. Then their number three priority is drop off laundry. In that order, we train in that way, and we can get into that a little bit more in a minute. But a store attendant is a store attendant. As you mentioned, customer service is everything. If they're an okay cleaner, we can work with them on getting better at cleaning. It's very difficult to work with people to teach them customer service skills. And we always say with attendants, we're looking for people that have what we call the heart of a servant, meaning they genuinely get a lot of satisfaction internally out of helping others. It makes them feel good internally to help other people. That's a natural thing they do. That's just kind of who they are. And that's hard to find, but we can put those things into a job description and kind of briefly describe those things for them. And then we're asking, leading questions in the interviews and things like that. But that's the first thing is the attendant. We also have, as Carla mentioned, we have processors. We have second shift laundry processors and third shift. They're compensated at the same amount. And what we're looking for there is a couple things. We're looking for what I call butt kickers, right? Just hardworking human beings, right? If you've ever met someone that basically can't sit still, even when they're at home, they're just not somebody to sit and watch TV or play video games. They're somebody that's always cleaning and straightening up, even in their personal lives. You can see that behavior when they're in a laundromat too, right? Carla mentioned they'll be picking up stuff that isn't even theirs, right? We're looking for people that are detail oriented, right? If they're detail oriented, every order that comes in for pickup and delivery and drop off laundry are unique, right? Everything we do is geared around, we do your laundry the way you do it. It's fully customizable, right? That's one of our couple of our market differentiators. And so if every order that comes in is based on how that person does laundry, then every order that comes in is unique and different. It's all on their receipts. It's all on their, what we call their follow tickets that comes out of our software, but you have to pay attention to those details. We're not as focused on their personal skills, right? Interpersonal skills. They're not doing customer service. And in fact, other than our second shift processors, they're not even around customers. They're around a couple third shift processors if they're working third shift. But when we're doing third shift production, the store is actually closed to the public, right? So that's what we define as a laundry processor. A delivery driver, pretty self-explanatory, but one thing I will point out to you there, we look for people that are a little bit more mature, right? People that have some reasonable problem-solving skills. We don't worry so much about sales skills, which I have heard some people say they want to make their drivers salespeople, but we're definitely looking for people that can be the face of our brand. Because for pickup and delivery, a lot of times our delivery drivers are the only people that actually interact face-to-face with our customers. And when they do, we want them to have that heart of a servant. We want them to go the extra mile and help the old lady if she can't get the laundry out to the porch, and we don't recommend our drivers go inside, but on occasion with some of our elderly clients, if that's what it takes because they're having a bad day, we encourage them to do things like that. We want them to be the face of the brand. Obviously, we want them to be reliable and trustworthy and things
good
like
drivers.
That too. Of course, a good driving record, less than 6 points on their license, different things like that. But they are really the face of our company. And one of the things we promote to our delivery drivers is 90% of the job is driving around with the radio on in the air-conditioned truck, right? The problem is the other 10%, you're working your butt off, right? You're picking up bags, you're loading them in the truck, you're taking them out of the truck, putting them in a tip cart, you're rolling that into the back processing. So, 10 to 15% of their job is pretty hard work. And so that's the last thing is they don't have to be, physical buff or anything like that, but they do have to be able to lift and work relatively hard. They can't have a bad heart or a bad shoulder or something like that. They're tossing, in a lot of cases, our delivery drivers will go out and do routes of 30 to 50 pickups or drop-offs, right? And the amount of 40 and 50-pound laundry bags that they got to tote around and toss in the truck and sit on the porch and all these different things. If you're not in good health or you got a bad heart or a bad knee or something like that, that can be difficult to do. And then from there, it goes to our management team. We can probably talk about that a little bit later, but our managers obviously are a whole new level above what, our processors, our attendants, and our delivery drivers look like.
As a business owner, think about the choices you're making. Your laundromat layouts, turns, payment mix, and how much time you want to spend on site. Hipsh helps you match equipment and technology to your space and management style, whether you're updating one location or planning your next one. And once your store is set up the way you want, Hipsh Command gives you visibility into machine activity, service alerts, and reporting, so you can make quick decisions and stay connected, even when you're off-site. Ready for a laundromat that fits your vision? Visit hipsh.com/choices to get started.
Another important part of getting the right people is also you can't get the right people without the right compensation package. I know Dave often talks about early on, we were working with Express Employment Professionals, which is that temporary staffing agency that we use. And they taught him something about the tier 1 versus the tier 2 labor pool and how, depending on what amount you're paying, the different type of person you're going to get, the different type of worker. And the problem that we've found in talking to a lot of laundromat owners is they're wanting a tier 2 employee, but at tier 1 wages. Dave, can you elaborate a little bit on this tier 1 and tier 2 labor pools?
Yeah. So what the people at Express kind of taught me, which was very eye-opening, is that most employers have, entry-level employers, whether it's fast food or laundromats or whatever, is they typically have expectations in line with a tier 2 labor pool, but then they have a compensation in line with a tier 1 labor pool. And basically there are ones above tier 2, by the way, but the way they described it, at least in the greater Cincinnati market, and this tends to hold true in most markets, is relatively, it's about $3 to $4 above minimum wage is the difference in a tier 1 and a tier 2 labor pool employee, right? And so if you're running ads with certain expectations and you're screening applicants and doing interviews and you're paying minimum wage or a buck above minimum wage or even a $1.50, the truth is all the candidates you're going to get that are willing to work for that number are coming out of a tier 1 labor pool. What they explained to me that labor pool looks like, and these are professional staffing people, is it looks like people who have drug addiction, right? People who struggle financially, right? For multitude of reasons, people that tend to have a lot of drama in their lives. They have a lack of stability in their personal lives, right? They typically don't have any skills or very few skills, right? Even things like customer service is a skill. They tend to be relatively unskilled.
A lot of times they're unreliable.
They're unreliable.
These are those employees that are calling in or no-shows. So not only are they unskilled, but they're not dependable.
And they kind of just walked me through these different things. And it really applies to any type of position that you might hire for, right? So we have store attendants, we have processors, laundry processors, we have delivery drivers, right? They naturally screen themselves out if you're not meeting their compensation level. So for example, let's use Cincinnati, Ohio, or just Ohio. Our minimum wage is $11 an hour, right? We pay our store attendants $14 an hour, which is $3 above minimum wage. And then we'll go over it in a little bit, but we have quite a few different bonuses and spiffs and commissions that we pay them for. And those usually amount to about $1 to $1.50 an hour. And one of the things they taught us is if you want to tap into that tier 2 labor pool, you really need to be anywhere from $3 to $4 above minimum wage, right? And what they said is if you're at minimum wage or a buck over minimum wage, you're getting the tier 1 labor pool. You get the $3 to $4 above minimum wage. The minimum wage employees are still going to apply, right? So you still have to filter them out of the process, but you're going to notice that the creme de la creme of the applications that you're getting, you're going to notice that are ones that are start to stand out to you. And, oh, this person worked at whatever place for 18 years, right? And the only reason they left is because it closed, right? Or they were a server and then they got promoted to a manager, and you'll see some things in their resume that kind of suggest upward mobility and different things like that. And those are the type of people that they're more reliable. They're more trustworthy. They tend to have a more stable home life. They have a better driving record as a general rule. They're more reliable when it comes to work. Something we didn't talk about, Carla, just now, but I think I'll point out is one of the things Express pointed out to us a long time ago is when you get into a tier 2 labor pool, you hit on someone that generally speaking, their job is important to them. And so what you can do is in your job descriptions and things like that, you can have a higher level of accountability, which we'll talk about in a minute. And you can also create job descriptions that your standards are just much higher for them. Punctuality, your employment, your employee handbook and all the policies you create. And it is a different mentality between being out of the labor pool and a tier 1 labor pool. And they kind of describe them as the same. And a tier 2 labor pool, even just paying $3 to $5 above minimum wage in most markets, you really find yourself with a completely different category of human beings.
Another big part of our hiring is developing very clear expectations from day one. And one way we do that is with the employee handbook. They have to sign off that they agree to everything in the employee handbook. But our employee handbook, and again, you can get it online in our store, but it outlines all of those policies we have about punctuality, about no drug use, about everything. It has all of that in there and clearly defined what can happen if you violate anything in this book. So they know from the beginning what our expectations are as far as behaviors and that they're going to be held accountable for those, that they can be terminated at any time for violation of those, that they might just get a warning. They might get a written warning, or they could be terminated, depending on how severe we believe that the consequence should be. So just those really clear expectations from day one, that they understand the expectations at Queen City Laundry.
And let me tell you something. One of the things we've learned in the process over the last 8 to 9 years is we've gotten pretty good at this process. Is we've learned that tier 2 and even tier 3 labor employees, managers and things like that, they not only expect that in their work culture, their environment they work in, they demand it, right? And so the truth is, if they come to work at a laundromat and interview, they're not really expecting what they get at Queen City Laundry or any of the top industry operators, right? They're not expecting a good culture.
They're expecting a little mom and pop,
that's right.
You actually have an employee handbook.
That's right. We hear all the time from tier 1 and tier 2 labor pool employees, wow, I've worked at 18 different companies in my 50 years on planet Earth, and I've never worked at a small business, let alone a laundromat, that was this organized.
Well, and an employee handbook isn't just holding them accountable, but it's honestly protecting them. If you think about it, there's harassment policy in it. If they're not going to have to put up with other employees or even customers mistreating them. That's all part of that employee handbook. It's not just this is what you have to do, but this is what everybody at Queen City has to do, including us as the owners. And we even start off with kind of a bit about our culture, our philosophy, and how we value the community and we value our team and all that kind of stuff as well. But the employee handbook is often, I think, dismissed in our industry as being, corporate HR fluff, but it really is an important component of portraying a professional image to your employees. And once again, holding them accountable, but also protecting them. So I think it's more important than people really realize sometimes.
And that stuff's vitally important, Carla, but you're also protecting yourself. There's a reason these big corporations have these things. And yes, theirs are much longer than 20 pages. To give you a quick example, we have your basic introduction and things like that in here. We have equal employment opportunity policy, which is by law required, workplace policy, harassment policy, substance abuse code of conduct, dress code, attendance policy, time off requests, payroll and information and overtime policy, holiday policy, jury duty and maternity leave policies, right? Just being able to show them this table of contents in an interview suggests that you are probably not the mom and pop employee or employer that they thought they were coming to. And once again, it doesn't have to be complicated, but there's a lot of people in this industry that really believe that something like this is nonsense and not necessary. You talk to the top 15, 20% of the industry, almost every one of them have one of these, and it's a living, breathing document that they're always thinking about editing. I started this from scratch 16 years ago. It was pretty pathetic, 5 pages for quite a while. I had an attorney write a bunch of legalese in here for us to cover a lot of stuff probably 10 to 12 years ago. And then I've probably modified it myself last couple of years using ChatGPT and things like that, and really make it a rather robust thing for a small business. So just want to point that out to people. This isn't all about the handbook, but I want people to get a lot out of this episode. And one of the things I hope you get out of this episode is that you should have an employee handbook. And if it starts as 5 pages, so be it. But the reason we offer this on our website is you can use it as a template. And I mean, we have hundreds of clients that have used this and downloaded it from our website, and then they use it as a template. And they usually keep 80 to 90% of it. And that 10% is usually, company specific and state specific laws and things like that.
So another piece of having great staffing is you've got to hire the right people. You've got to have high expectations, but you can't have high expectations without training them appropriately. So we are very stringent on our training practices and making sure our employees are fully capable of meeting those high expectations when they're at the job alone. Dave, can you go through basically kind of what our training looks like for attendants versus processors versus drivers?
Yeah. Well, first thing I'll say is all 3 of those kind of mimic each other in a little bit different way, right? We have a trainer, typically a manager, but not always, who is the expert, right? And one thing I will point out before we even get into the training process is just because someone is good at their job doesn't mean they're good at teaching a job, right? Doing it and teaching it are 2 very different things that I didn't used to understand, and I now understand. So if you take a great attendant, or even a great manager who was a great attendant, take the time and effort and energy to train them, because that's compounding, right? If I take a manager and they're good at being an attendant, I promote them to a manager, they're good at being a manager, that doesn't make them automatically by default good at training other people. But if I invest, an hour, 2 hours, 10 hours, a couple weeks, whatever it is, into creating a formalized training policy, and then training the trainer on how to implement that policy, how to train other people, they're now going to train, let's say they work for me for 10 years, who knows how many dozens of people they're going to train, right? And I only had to teach them how to do it once, okay? This is how you do the job, and this is how you teach someone who doesn't know the job how to do the job, and these are checklists. So we have job descriptions, right? We go over those job descriptions with them. We have training checklists, which are nothing more than a punch list, right? And even Marlene, who's been with us for 15 years and helped me build the whole company, even she has to use that checklist when she trains somebody. And the idea is nothing's left off, right? So they go through the checklist. And what the training looks like for really all 4 of those positions is very similar. Day 1 is just them shadowing, just them watching someone be an attendant. If it's a manager, they're attending the store. They're walking them through the employee handbook. They're doing their paperwork. They're showing them how to use our systems and our Sense POS. They're showing them where all the job descriptions are, where all the company policies are in our binder book, where it is in the Google Drive, right, where they can find these things. They're reviewing the important things in our employee handbook. They're making sure they're signing at the back of the handbook. All those different things, that usually takes, if it's a 4 to 6 hour shift, that usually takes a solid 2 hours. Just going over all that stuff. We talked about company culture, all these different things. The second half of the day, they're doing a really quick 2 to 4 hour run through of the job. But what they're doing is following them around as they're doing the job. And every step of the way, they're over explaining how I do the job and why we do it this specific way. That's kind of day 1. Day 2, we basically do the same thing again, only spend less time on paperwork. And we spend more time on them shadowing and watching, and we're just kind of regurgitating the same information. Day 3, we start to push the employee out for an attendant. We start to encourage them to, hey, we got 3 people in line. I'll do the first 2. Why don't you do the last one? And I'll stand right here with you. But we want them doing the job. And then day 4, the goal is, if they're a quick learner, and most of the time they are, day 4 is to let them do the job, and you just stand back and you watch, but you don't get involved unless they ask. If they stop and say, hey, I'm stumped, I'm not sure what to do, I'll see that X in the top left corner, click on that type of thing, right? And for attendance, other than the paperwork that we do at the beginning, stressing company policies and procedures, where to go to find job descriptions and different things like that, how to put machines out of order, how to fix coin jams, how to refund people's money, all these different things that are part of the job. Other than those things, what we're really stressing in everything we do is those 3 categories that I mentioned earlier. You have to always remember that customer service is your first priority. Okay, you can say that, but what does that mean? We tell them what that means. Okay, it's not just a customer service comes first. What's customer service, right? It's a human problem that needs to be addressed immediately, right? It could be on the phone, by the way. They might not be in person, but if they're in person, it's certainly important, right? If there's safety involved, it's escalated even further, right? You don't want someone to slip and fall, et cetera, et cetera. Any human being with a human problem, we address that first, right? And our theory, I know people say, oh, cleaning, cleaning, cleaning. Our theory behind that is, I always say, if I walk into a business and there's an employee helping 3 people at the counter and there's a line, knee deep, and they're helping one person and working their butt off, and I see that the trash is overflowing a little, well, I give them a little bit of grace because I assume that once they get that line pared down, they're probably going to go empty the garbage, right? But I wouldn't expect them to make the people wait in line at the counter to go empty the garbage can. So I always say, I disagree. I don't think cleaning does come first, because if there's some paper on the floor or spilled detergent, yeah, if it's a safety hazard, a slip and fall, yeah, let's go put a caution sign out, which takes 2 seconds, and let's go right back to the human problem. But even explaining the human problem to them and what that looks like and what it means in this environment, you even have to prioritize those things. The second priority is cleaning the store, right? If there is no human being with no human problem, including on the phone, that store should be cleaned and it should be spotless. And priority number 3 is doing processing drop-off laundry. But there's even some nuance there, right? Because what we don't want is we don't want them in a vacuum cleaning for 5 hours when there's 200 pounds of drop-off sitting back here, right? So part of the art of training them to multitask and do these things, we call them staggering of your responsibilities, is obviously if there's a human problem, you address that first. If there's cleaning, that needs to be done. But if there's a drop-off order, guess what? We can take 5 minutes, sort that laundry, put it in the machine, start the machine, and then the washer takes typically about 28 minutes to wash the clothes. Well, guess what? While that washer's running, we call this a staggering your responsibilities, because you can now go to cleaning, right? And let's say you have 3 hours worth of cleaning to do. Well, you can do 28 minutes of cleaning, and then the washer stops. Well, you stop your cleaning, right? You move the drop-off order from the washer to the dryer, and then you go back to cleaning for another 40 minutes while the dryer dries the clothes, right? And then when the dryer's finished, if your cleaning isn't finished yet, you can take what we train to do is take the laundry out, lay it flat over the sides of the cart, roll it into the drop-off room, and it can sit back there for 5 hours while they clean the rest of the store. And they don't fold and package that drop-off order until the cleaning is caught up, right? And then once it's finished, before they go reading a book on their phone or playing on YouTube or whatever, they've got a drop-off order to process. And what they're doing is they're constantly managing, bouncing back and forth and being efficient and multitasking between these 3 responsibilities, understanding at any one point, if I have to choose for this second between task 1 and task 2, I always choose task 1. So my point is that when we're training an attendant, we can have policies and procedures, but I think a lot of times we take for granted what that means. Another thing I'll stress real quickly here, Carla, and I know this is getting long, but cleaning. There are a lot of people in this world that think wiping off is cleaning, and it's not, right? Wiping off is wiping off, right? And so we even explain the difference in what that means to some people, because to some people who grew up in a household where nothing was ever clean, picking up is cleaning, right? And we need them to understand that there's levels to this thing. And yeah, decluttering and picking up and trash cans overflowing, that's egregious things, right? But that's only the first layer to cleaning, right? And then even beyond what we call the shift cleaning is another layer to training, which is what we call detail cleaning, right? And that's done last, right? That's not even done every shift. If you reach a point, and this does happen, believe it or not, but if you reach a point where there's no human beings with no human problems, there's all the cleaning in the store is done, there's no drop-off laundry to check in or to process or to fold, right? Then what do? You don't play on your phone, right? You have a completely separate checklist, right? You've checked off all the checklist things for what we call your shift cleaning. And by the way, these are available on our website in our shop, but we also have a detail cleaning list, okay? Detail cleaning list might look something like this. A shift cleaning list might be pulling out the lint drawers, wiping off the lint with your hands, balling it up, throwing it in the garbage, and closing the lint drawer, right? A detail cleaning would be pulling that thing all the way out, taking a shop vac, and shop vacuuming the lint drawer by itself, pulling the screen all the way out, shop vacuuming the whole thing front and back, right? That's an example of detail cleaning versus shift cleaning. And there are levels to that too. Even cleaning the top of your troughs behind the dryers, which people do see. Does it need to be cleaned every shift? No. The detail cleaning are typically in our repertoire. We refer to them as things that usually need to be cleaned anywhere from every 2 weeks to every 2 months, right? Somewhere in that range. And what we do is we always have a list of those things. And you can start at the top, and the odds that you will have time between all of your your responsibilities of customer service, the level of customer service we provide, by the way, which includes greeting customers and things like that, the cleaning of the store, the shift cleaning responsibilities, and the detail cleaning responsibilities. That's what a tier 2 labor employee looks like. A tier 1 labor pool won't do half of that. You can train them all day, but they won't do that stuff, right? A tier 2 labor pool will take that level of responsibility and accountability. And when they're trained in that way and they're shown that level of responsibility, a lot of times they enjoy it. They're like, this is amazing. This is fantastic. I basically always know what to do. I don't have to ask any questions, right? Now, let me be clear. We've been doing this for 16 years, right? We have an amazing team of almost 50 people at this point.
And a lot of checklists.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. But what you learn is those things are required. Maybe your managers don't need those checklists. They're in their head, right? And they train them every day. But the truth is they still abide by and use those checklists in the same way. So I know that was really long-winded when it comes to employees, but that level of training and accountability in customer service, if you're going to try to hold them accountable, you can't give them 50% training.
Whether you already have a laundromat or are looking to get into the laundry industry, everyone needs proper drainage. We use HM Company drain troughs. Their drain troughs were first created in 1991, and they have been the leading drain trough manufacturer ever since. They're made in the USA, and their drain troughs are fully customizable to meet your needs. That's why we've used them ever since entering the industry. They're easy to clean for our staff and plenty sturdy when we need to walk on them when servicing our washers. With the ability to span up to 25 feet, our troughs rarely need to be connected together, creating an easy installation. Want to slope your trough like we do? No problem. Just let the experts at HM Company know. For more information, go to their website at draintroughs.com. That is draintroughs.com. HM Company Drain Troughs. They've been leading the industry since 1991. Check them out today. Next, we've talked about how we hire the great people. Another thing we often get questioned about is how to retain them. So now we have paid what we need to get that tier 2 worker. We have clear expectations. We've trained them. How do we keep them happy? So there's a couple of things that we feel like we've over the years become really good at to retain employees. And we're going to talk about both of those. The first is kind of an easy one. Not easy to do, but an easy one to talk about, which is the company culture. And a lot of the culture, honestly, is about hiring the right people and retaining the right people throughout your organization. It's keeping the people that treat others with respect. Also, within our company, letting people know that there is a chance for upward mobility. A lot of our hiring comes from within. All of our management team, they started out as attendants. Even our GM, Marlene, who's been with us for 15 years, started as a part-time attendant. But the chance for upward mobility and really noticing people for their skills, I think we've done a good job of that. I think we also do a good job of giving people ownership. Like for instance, if you talk to our management team, they talk about Queen City Laundry like it is their company. Our store managers, they talk about them like they're their store. And part of that is us really giving them that ownership. Not that they can do whatever they want, but within guidelines, things like they get to decorate it themselves for holidays, however they want. And we give them a stipend to use towards decorating. They're really in control of their own staffing. They can go above them for help if they need help, or also if they're not doing a good job at managing, then they will get additional training. So there's still accountability for them, but there's also a lot of independence and trust put into them.
Organization. I'll jump in on this, Carla. Organization. Whenever a new store manager is promoted or maybe moved from one store to another, they're encouraged to take the next few months and make that store their store. Or even who works when. They don't put the schedules together, but they do get feedback on that. Whenever we do a remodel in a store, a retool in a store, I will sit down with the leadership team and let them know these are my decisions. But what equipment we're thinking about putting in the store, what we're taking out, why we're putting them in, what controls they will have, Laundryworks systems. We have meetings with our team, letting them know why we're putting these in and the strategy behind it. But we don't have a meeting to tell them what's happening. We have a meeting to explain to them our vision and then to get their feedback. Or we have monthly manager meetings and we brainstorm and we all go off site and have dinner together and we talk about how things are going in their store, good and bad, what things they need help with, what things they need encouragement with, et cetera type of things. These are all part. My point is these all go back to ownership, right? They all go back to company culture, and it starts with the top, right? And the top isn't me and Carla. The top is our GM and our assistant GM, our leadership team, right? And then everything falls down from them. And if they are an example of what the Queen City Laundry way is, which me and Carla obviously decide, and they buy into that, then that will trickle down and they will believe in that and they will share that company culture with the management team. The management team will now value and appreciate what we've invested. We hear this all the time from our team members. I mean, there are very few of them that don't tell us this is the best job they've ever had, and it's the best place they've ever worked, best company they've ever worked for, something along those lines. And they're usually going back to compensation, ownership, and company culture. Those are the things that are important to them. So when it comes to retention, which is really the conversation here, yeah, you can't do this and pay people minimum wage. You got to pay them. And we'll talk about some bonuses and stuff in a minute that kind of help that too. But it really starts with a company culture. You can pay all the bonuses you want and you can pay all the money in the world. And if you have a terrible company culture, they might stay for a little while because of the money, but chances are they're going to find somebody somewhere that'll match the money, especially if they're a rock star. And when they do, they're going to be gone because nobody wants to be miserable. For any amount of money, nobody wants to be miserable.
Our management team is also really good about showing appreciation, and we do give them a budget for that, a budget to get like gift cards and cards and stuff. And especially our assistant GM is really good at this. It's kind of in her skill set is, sending out cards for anniversaries with the company, birthdays, new births, all that kind of stuff, all those big events that happen in our employees' lives. She's really good at keeping up with that and sending them a card with a little gift card. They can also use part of their money to decide, hey, our store had a rough week. A lot of drop off came in. We're going to have donuts this morning or whatever, or I'm going to send in a pizza to them or whatever, our processing staff. Showing that you appreciate them, even in little ways.
Another thing I'll throw out there, Carla, is we encourage our management and leadership team to catch our team members doing things that are important to our company culture, right? So one of the things we talk about constantly is having the heart of a servant, right? Going above and beyond in customer service, right? And we constantly talk to our team about that. Well, we encourage our management and our leadership team with those gifts you're talking about when they catch someone doing those. And sometimes it's customers give us feedback. Sometimes it's customers leave reviews. But a lot of times it's practicing what we call active management, which is the management team, instead of sitting in the office and waiting to hear about feedback, we want them out observing and creating relationships with our employees and with our customers so that feedback is happening to them naturally.
Would you like to make more money from your laundromat? Would you like those machines you're paying for to have more turns per day? Do you offer wash, dry, fold services or pickup and delivery laundry services? If not, would you like to? Whether you do or not, we have an amazing opportunity for you in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, you've probably heard about it, guys, but it's our wash, dry, fold, pickup and delivery workshop. And to answer your first question, yes, it is for drop-off laundry, wash, dry, fold, and pickup and delivery. So if you're doing any of those things, this workshop is going to help you tremendously. But the truth is, we were pretty so-so laundromat owners and so-so successful until we launched drop-off laundry and pickup and delivery. And being able to what I call optimize your laundromat to generate more profit and more revenue out of the existing facility, that's the key to taking your life from good to great, financially speaking, with laundromats. And that's what made us Laundromat Millionaires.
You don't have to just listen to us. Listen to what some of our past attendees have to say about our Wash, Dry, Fold pickup and delivery workshop in Cincinnati, Ohio.
It was the best workshop I've attended in over 25 years. And what you guys have put together is nothing short of phenomenal. I think that you guys have put together both strategic and tactical systems that will make an individual who wants to own the laundromat profitable within months, not years.
Was the workshop worth the investment? Without a doubt, it was definitely worth the investment. So not only did we have two very packed days with Dave and Carla and their team, both in the classroom and touring the facilities, but we also came away with this extensive 100-page handbook. And then after the workshop was completed, I received a bunch of electronic performers and templates that we've been able to use since the workshop. Every day since the workshop, I found myself referring back to either those electronic tools or the handbook that we received. So,
was it worth the investment? Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I cannot say that enough. This was such a blessing, and I am so very grateful that Dave and Carla put this together and are sharing their knowledge and experience with others to have this to grow their business and to become more successful. Thank you, guys.
So are you interested? Go to laundromatmillionaire.com to learn more and see where you can register.
So another thing, and I kind of tie this with like giving them ownership. We've alluded to this already, is some of our compensation, our bonuses. The reason I like to call them ownership is a lot of it is based on the idea of our company is all of our company. And as our company becomes more and more successful, so will you. You know, your pay is going to grow with the income of the company. A lot of our bonuses are really kind of revenue sharing, especially among the management level. So to give you an idea of some of our bonuses just across the board, we give bonuses for a lot of different things. There's obviously tips. I don't know if you would call that a bonus, but we give bonuses for every comforter that they wash, they get $1. If they sell like a laundry bag over the counter, we have like logoed laundry bags, they get $1 for every one of those added to their check that they sell.
You can take it a step further. We pay them $1 for every laundry bag they sell. Why? Well, because we make money on laundry bags, right? We want to incentivize certain behavior, right? So that's why we're spiffing them. That's why they're bonusing them. But that adds to their compensation. So they start at that $3 to $4 above minimum wage. But by the end of the pay period, they get to, tips, drop-off bonuses, things like that. They get bonuses, reviews, and things like that. But one of the things I wanted to point out is that when they get $1 to sell a laundry bag, but then we gamify it. We take it to another level and we say, okay, any employee in the company across all 4 stores, whichever employee in a pay period, so a 2-week pay period, sells the most laundry bags in this pay period, they get a double bonus. So they get $2. Everybody else still gets their buck, right? And so it kind of gamifies it. And what they do is they write on like a little dry erase boards. Oh, Angie sold 3 today and Tanya sold 2 today, and et cetera. And it's even across stores, but we do it every pay period. And what happens is you see one person get pretty good at selling and somebody else says, hey, I'd rather have $2 a bag than $1 a bag. Well, they start listening and observing their coworkers. They say, man, how are they selling? What are they doing? But the point is, it gamifies it. It makes it fun. We spread the wealth as far as bonuses and things like that. But what we really love about it is it drives the motivation. It drives the behavior that we want. Reviews is another example, Carla. We, for a couple years now, have paid $10 for a 4 or 5-star review that is posted on Google or Facebook that mentions the attendant's name in it or employee's name in it. Sometimes it's delivery drivers, sometimes it's managers over the phone or whatever. And you would be shocked. If you go and look at our reviews, at least in the last 2 years, our reviews are up tremendously. And $10 might sound like a lot of money, but if you understand the value of those reviews and having dozens and dozens, if not hundreds and hundreds of 4 and 5-star reviews, trust me, reviews will make or break your business. They're earning these reviews by going above and beyond, by doing mini tours, right? By having the heart of a servant, helping someone. They're doing their job and they're being incentivized to do so. Because when you go above and beyond with a customer, what oftentimes happen is, one, the customer will try to give them a tip. Hey, thank you so much. Is there anything else I can do for you? You deserve a raise, right? Can I tell your boss? They say things like that, right? And what we've trained our staff to do is every time they say that, say, you know what you can do for me? If you would leave us a 5-star review that mentions my name is Tanya, in there, I actually get a bonus and I get recognized for that. So my point is, these are all things, and all of these things add up to anywhere from $1 to $2 an hour more. So once again, going back to like attendance, for example, and by the way, these apply to delivery drivers and stuff too. But for attendance, if we're paying $3 to $4 above minimum wage, and then they're getting another $1.50 or $2 in bonuses and spiffs, and we pay 10 cents a pound for drop-off laundry bonuses. If they do drop-off orders, they get tips with drop-off orders. They end up making about $5 to $6 an hour above minimum wage in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Well, and then, so that's just with our lower level employees. So our attendants, our drivers, and our managers can get all those bonuses too. But really getting into the ownership and feeling like you're part of the growth of the company is our management team, because our managers, so they're in charge of their store. So even if they don't do the drop-off laundry that comes through their store, they get 20 cents a pound for every pound of drop-off that their store does. Because remember, they're accountable for the quality control and for keeping the employees accountable in their store. So they really care about their stores being successful and having more drop-off laundry. And then when you get to our management, our upper level management, our leadership team, our assistant GM and our GM, they literally get 6 cents a pound for every single pound that goes through our entire organization. So that's, drop off laundry, pickup and delivery. So you better believe when we land a big account, even though they know it's going to be a whole lot more work for them and maybe some more hiring that needs to be done and more training, they're excited because they know their paycheck is going to have a big jump, just like our bottom line is. So it's really that idea of sharing the revenue with them.
I'll give you guys a quick example, and I know this is running over, but I think you'll appreciate this. So this is probably 5-6 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, we started doing drop-off dry cleaning, right? And we wholesale it out to a local dry cleaner. Everybody knows we have Presso now. It's become a big part of our business. But 7 or 8 years ago, we started this, and it wasn't, obviously, we didn't hardly any revenue. Well, it became a lot of hassles, a lot of headaches. It was kind of a new thing for us, a new partnership and everything. And there was a lot of pains to it, and it really wasn't generating a lot of money. And at one point, I had decided to pay my staff 1%, my leadership team, 1% of gross for dry cleaning, right? Just another bonus in addition to the 6 cents a pound, right? Well, I did it because I wanted them to buy into dry cleaning. Well, ironically, 7 or 8 months later, we were all kind of frustrated with dry cleaning, and we were in a leadership meeting one day, and I looked at the leadership team and I said, guys, I got to tell you, this dry cleaning is just, it's not, this is a hassle and it's really not worth it. And I'm thinking about getting rid of it. I thought they were both going to tackle me, right? Because they saw it as me taking away a revenue stream from them. 1% of gross wasn't a big number back then. It is a bigger number now, but they wanted that opportunity to continue to grow the business because that grew their revenue, right? And that's money they took home. Well, it's a good thing they did, because now we do a couple $100,000 a year in dry cleaning. They still get 1% of that. It's not a huge number in a vacuum, but it's in addition to a bonus that is rapidly approaching 60-70% of their salaries, right? So you have to remember that these things really stack and they add up. But even with our leadership team, it goes back to driving the behavior you want, right? Now, it's not true profit sharing, because if we don't make a profit or do make a profit, they still get their 1% and they still get their 6 cents for the wash, dry, fold orders. But what we're trying to get them to do is get them to have buy-in. And as the business grows, especially for our leadership team, the stress level, the responsibility, it would be very easy if they were just on salary to say, oh, here's another level of responsibility I don't get paid for. Here's a new problem, a new hassle, right? A new mechanism to do whatever for Dave and Carla to make more money, right? Well, especially in our leadership team and our management team, we want them to understand that these are their stores, and we want them to have to buy in these things too.
So the last thing we want to talk about is the part everyone hates to do. I know I hate to do it. In fact, I've never done it. I refuse to do it. That is firing people. Unfortunately, there are times where you've hired someone and you find they are not the right fit for your company. Now, it's always great with us having so many different positions. Sometimes we can let people go from one position, but we have another position that's better for them. Maybe they aren't fast enough and don't pay enough attention to detail to be that laundry processor, but they're really friendly and great with people and they make a great attendant or whatever. So sometimes we can find a different position, but then there's sometimes they're just not our people. And it's best for your company and oftentimes even your culture to just sever those ties. And one thing that definitely helps is back to that employee handbook. That employee handbook outlines for you exactly what the expectations are for the job and all the different reasons that you can be written up or even terminated. So they know ahead of time that they shouldn't have done that thing. It's in there. So there's no reason you should feel bad having to let them go because it's been very clear from the get-go what your expectations were.
Well, and that's the what we call the moral or the personal side of running a business. But then there's also the legal side of running a business, which is, you can fire them. And there's the accountability associated with unemployment and workers' comp and all these different things. And those do matter if you're documenting them. I cannot tell you how many times this employee handbook that I sent over to the unemployment office when we had to let somebody go and their signature on that last page, sending that over to them, boom, we won. That easy. It's written right here. They signed it 2 years ago, plain as day. When it comes to, HR, you don't have to have a full-time HR person or department to be conducting human resources actions in a small business. And they can be done simply. Once again, I'll stress it again. This is 20 pages, and this is a pretty robust employee handbook for a small business.
I feel like a common comment we get on our members coaching calls and even with your clients are when you have an employee that you like, you care about, and you see the potential in them, but they just aren't working out. They're not reliable, or they're not really even fit for the job. You think that maybe someday, somehow they could be, or you just don't want to have to let them go because you haven't found anybody better. And I really want to caution people on holding on to bad employees for too long. It can really do some harm, not only to your culture, but also to your reputation in your community. We work hard to get new customers and pay money through Laundry Boost, our marketing company, to get new customers. The last thing you want to do is turn them away. And a poor experience with your staff can definitely do that.
And by the way, I'll point out, they don't have to cuss them out. They don't have to scream at them. They don't have to throw the telephone at them. They can just kind of give them the stink eye. Some people just kind of carry this negative look around on their face, and they don't know, they don't mean to, they weren't trying to be rude. That's just what they looked like in the moment type of thing. Those things we coach up as much as we can. We do everything possible to show people their weaknesses, to encourage them to operate in the Queen City Laundry way. But Carla's exactly right. There have been many occasions over the years where we're like, look, Sally, you technically haven't done anything wrong, right? But the truth is you're just not a good fit. You can have all the things we've went over in this episode today. And the truth is that if you're letting one person get away with not doing those things, Sally isn't upholding the Queen City Laundry way, then everybody else thinks it's nonsense too. And it's even worse if it's a manager or a leadership team member or whatever, right? It's compounded even more.
It becomes like a cancer in your organization.
For sure. And this person may not have stolen from you. I know we always go to very egregious things, but they might even be a reliable employee and a hardworking employee and just simply not a good fit. And the truth is we've had this happen on more than one occasion. It's some of the toughest firings I've had to do. And we've paid them unemployment and said, hey, we're going to go our separate ways. And we've even given them a couple weeks pay and severance and things like that sometimes, and said, this just isn't working out. We've worked with you, but everything isn't always just around you stole money. That's pretty easy to fire people for that. Right. But when it comes to things that are a little bit more delicate, another thing I'll leave you with that I know most people listen to this will agree to is always remember too, even when you fire somebody for something egregious, like stealing from your company, remember, they're still a human being, right? And so we always say we hire with love and we fire with love, right? It doesn't mean you can work here. Doesn't mean I'm excusing your absence, but I'm not going to treat you like a dog. Like, I'm not going to scream at you. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to degrade you and tell you what a horrible person you are because you stole money from me. I'm not going to excuse the fact you stole money from you. I'm not going to tell you it's okay. Right? I'm just going to tell you that you made a bad choice. You can't work here anymore, and we wish you the best. Right? But I personally believe when it comes time to let people go, you do everything you can to build them up into who you want them to be. And the last thing you want to do is tear them down when you're pushing them out the door.
Well, on that note, I think that's a great place to stop. Hopefully you found a lot of value from us sharing our tips and tricks for hiring, retaining, and sometimes even firing different staff members. Hopefully you found some golden nuggets, as Dave likes to call them, that will help you in your business. But that's it for today. So thank you for watching another episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show, sponsored by HM Company at draintross.com. Take care.
Take care, everyone.